Can you put Xbox parts inside your PS5? We've got some big updates on Avengers, more characters coming to Dead by Daylight, and there's some pretty cool games you can play on PS Now right now. I'm not going to complain about it at all, but it feels like I have a new reason to talk about Bloodborne every week here on the channel, but this might be my favorite news story yet. So there's this like whole modding scene around the game Bloodborne on both PC and PS4 because Sony's not doing anything with the game. They're leaving it in the state that it was released in essentially after the DLC came out, the basic like Ultimate Edition that they made. That's where the game is at. They never updated it for PS4 Pro. They're definitely not updating it for PS5 at this point. So people are just cracking it wide open and doing whatever they want with it. In today's mod, it turns it into a first-person game, and it's actually incredible. So a YouTuber named Garden of Eyes featured some gameplay on his channel of this mod, and it really looks like a VR mod at first because you only see the hunter's arms. It makes it look like a first-person shooter in VR, but then when you look a little closer, it's not in VR. It's just first-person from the point of like putting the camera inside the head of the hunter, so you only see their arms, but it looks like it works really cool. You've still got lock on, you've got the gun, you've got all of your moves. There's like a finisher that you do on Father Gascoigne. Like this looks incredible. And I looked into the process of modding Bloodborne, and it is way harder than anything I think I'd be capable of doing. But hopefully Sony pays attention and manages to re-release the game on PS5 or something like that and includes a first-person mod. Now that seems a little bit crazy, right? But it's actually happened before with another game. The Evil Within 2 had a very similar mod on PC where people figured out how to play it in first person, and it actually worked really well. And then a year later, they updated the game and made a first person mode that was just making it like open world Resident Evil 7. It was actually really cool, and when I replayed the Evil Within 2 last year, I did it all in first person and it worked great. So hopefully when Bloodborne finally gets its re-release, we have something like this. Guys, I just texted Jim Ryan and asked him when the next state of play is, and he told me that the only way he'll ever tell us when the next state of play is if you subscribe to the channel and set your notifications to all. Right now, 81% of you aren't subscribed, and we really got to get that number down because I really want a state of play. So please subscribe and set your notifications to all. So Marvel's Avengers is about a year old at this point, but this is like the make or break moment for the game. If you've ever played Destiny, this should be like its Taken King moment because this week we're getting the War for Wakanda expansion, which is a free upgrade to the game. And then of course the monetization comes from their weird battle card challenge card system where when you get a new character, you can pay $10 to get a challenge card, which is like a mini battle pass that has cosmetics for that character. And then of course they're updating the store with all of these $15 skins. They have like something like 40 skins for Black Panther at launch. Some other changes that are coming along with this expansion are of course a new map, which is Wakanda, and it looks incredible. It seems like they're really flexing their Tomb Raider history on this one. There's challenging traversal sections. Like it looks like they put a ton of work into this new map. And of course the new character kit for Black Panther himself is totally new. Like with the last two heroes, it was the Hawkeyes. They got Clint Barton and Kate Bishop, and they essentially had very similar movesets, but Black Panther is a totally new character, and he's like looks awesome. Like I want to download this game again and try it out, but there's a few things stopping me. First of all, despite the fact that they did a good thing in reworking the entire gear menu so you can see all of your stuff very clearly on the screen now, the loot itself is still a mess. There's no cosmetic changes when you apply any loot, and the exotic system is really bad. Like you can only get about one exotic a week in normal times, and right now you can get up to 3, but they don't really synergize all that well with each other, and there's really no reason to chase all of this exotic loot because the endgame system in this game is completely broken. There's two really hard endgame things you can do to grind for gear, one of them being a mega hive, which is the most boring thing ever put in a video game. It's like 48 floors of just fighting AIM soldiers over and over again in repetitive, just boring interiors. And then of course you have the Omega level threat, which we are getting another one of, but this system needs a lot of work because it entirely relies on multiplayer, and because you're capped at a certain gear score, the end level boss, you basically have to wipe it in 30 seconds or you're done. You need like a Thor who's got a completely broken OP build or something like that to even have a chance at finishing this end level stuff, but they don't seem to care all that much because this content's been out for a little bit now and they haven't talked at all about fixing it. And then the one other aspect of this game that still seems to be plaguing it is the fact that Spiderman is an exclusive character on PS5, and that's also screwing up the game from a multiplayer perspective because they can't do crossplay. Because if you have Spider-Man exclusive to PlayStation and you do crossplay, it's gonna screw things up for the Xbox side and the PC side. Now, the reason that's a problem is because no one's playing it on those other consoles, and it's nearly impossible to find people to play this game in multiplayer, except for like the week surrounding new DLC releases. So yeah, it's cool that they added in this like new story expansion for Black Panther that seems like it's a lot of fun, but they don't have anything going on after that that's going to keep people playing this game, and it's basically seeming like after Spider-Man comes out, they're just gonna wrap up. Like, this game lost Square Enix somewhere around $150 million. The only way it's monetized right now is through buying really expensive skins, which you only have to buy once, and this game goes on sale for like 20 bucks all the time. So if you buy it for like 20 bucks on PS4, you get the free PS5 upgrade and you're good to go. It just like, it doesn't seem like there's any real way for them to feasibly make enough money to really commit to a full year 2 of this game. And then when I think about it, the single player stuff in this game is actually really good. Like, I enjoyed the story a lot. I did like that it focused on Kamala Khan. I thought that was a weird choice before the game came out, but after I played the story, it made a lot of sense. She brought all the Avengers back together. All the post-release story stuff they've done has been really good, but then it begs the question, why did you make this a multiplayer looter? If you're so weak in that department and you're just sick of supporting that department of the game to the point where you can't even find multiplayer matches, why didn't you just stick with the single player aspect of this game from the beginning? It seems like that's what Crystal Dynamics wanted to do. It seems like that's what they're going to continue to do, and for that reason alone, I feel like Marvel's Avengers is done after Spider-Man. We'll have a good game that has a good story and a bunch of characters. I think at that point it'll have 10 different playable heroes, and that's all it's ever going to be, unfortunately. But now that Black Panther's out for free and people seem to really like it, they could turn things around and decide to recommit to the game, but yeah, I don't see that happening. So at this point, hopefully it's no secret to you guys that I absolutely love horror movies, and one of my favorite multiplayer games out right now is Dead by Daylight. I played it back in beta when it came out in like, I think 2017, and I was like, this is in rough shape right now, but I like their original killers, and then a year in, they started going nuts, adding literally every cool slasher icon to the game. I jumped back in, and I've been playing, you know, on and off ever since. If you look at all the iconic slashers, they pretty much got it covered. They got Michael Myers, they've got Freddy, they don't have Jason because no one can use Jason right now, and that's sad, but they do have Leatherface. And you know, when they started out with Michael Myers, they used the weirdest version of him they could find, and then of course with Freddy, we got the remake Freddy, which is the worst Freddy objectively. Like, I don't think there's any defense of the remake Freddy, and that's because they didn't have a lot of money to play around with, and since there's so many movies in these franchises, the rights are split between a billion different companies, so you can kind of go movie to movie, and some of them are cheaper to get than others, or even more possible than others. So like, for example, when Spirit Halloween starts opening up in September and you go there, that's why you're seeing masks from Halloween Resurrection and Hellraiser 3. Anyway, the one killer that they've been missing for a long time is Pinhead, which is crazy because Pinhead makes a lot of sense to be a killer in Dead by Daylight. I can just see him floating around the map and shooting chains out of the ground, getting survivors while they're fixing those generators. Like, if you think about it, Pinhead fits in the best out of pretty much all of the iconic slashers. Like, Freddy makes a lot of sense, Leatherface makes a lot of sense because he chases people around really fast with the chainsaw, but then Michael Myers, his whole like idea is that he walks very slowly and just kind of appears behind people, and then you can't use Jason, who would also be very good, but Pinhead, his powers just make sense for a game like this. I don't know, it feels like the right thing. So I'm glad that Dead by Daylight's finally adding him. They've done some really cool stuff with the map, like the Silent Hill one changes, and of course the Stranger Thing one changes, you go into the Upside Down, so I could definitely see whatever the map that comes along with Pinhead is doing the same stuff. Like starting in the real world or something like that and going into the Cenobite Hell world, and hopefully we get more Cenobites because there's some pretty cool ones. You know, my friends were really hoping for CD Head from Hellraiser 3, which I hope was a joke, but I really want Butterball. He's my favorite Cenobite. I hope that we eventually get Butterball as well, now that we've opened the floodgates with Pinhead. And I feel like it could happen because we not only have a new Hellraiser movie coming out, we also have a TV show coming to HBO Max from David Gordon Green, who brought Halloween back with Halloween 2018 and Halloween Kills. I think that guy's gonna nail it on Hellraiser. Real quick before we get into the next story, you guys might have noticed that little shelf below the video where we've got t-shirts, we've got canvases, and some other cool stuff for sale. Here's the design on the t-shirt. It's a hand-drawn, dual senses tingling, Spider-Man joke type thing. I think it's pretty cool. So if you want one of these, again, check out the shelf down below the video. So when Sony started adding big games to PS Now like Red Dead Redemption 2 and Final Fantasy VII's remake, people were wondering if that would continue and sort of turn the service into a kind of like Game Pass competitor. Now I know the big limitation with this service obviously is the streaming isn't that great on PS3 games, and when you download these bigger games that get added to it, you only get the PS4 version. So even if you downloaded that PS4 version of Final Fantasy VII Remake, it doesn't have the weird like free upgrade capability that the disc version would have. But Sony's still trucking along, adding some really good games to the service, and recently they added a cool one that I feel like you guys should definitely check out if you have PS Now. It's called Nier Automata. It's like a third-person action game from Platinum Games, and it's like a sleeper hit, right? When it came out, I don't feel like it really caught on all that well, but then as time went on, it became one of the biggest games on PlayStation, and now it's like, I think one of Square Enix's bigger series. It has awesome music, really good combat, and the story is absolutely bizarre, but it's totally unique, and there isn't much else in the gaming world like it. You've also got the other Cyberpunk game that came out last year, Ghost Runner, which was just added to the service, and this game is really cool. If you've ever played Hotline Miami and you like stuff where it's like you can kill people in one hit, but you can also be killed in one hit, and you've got to memorize the map and learn all the cool platforming points, this is a game you should definitely check out. It's super gory, it's got some really good effects and graphics. Like, I think it's a genuinely awesome game. I've seen it go on sale for like 12 bucks before, but now if you have a PS Now subscription, you can play it for free, so you should definitely check it out if you haven't. And then finally, they added one of the weirdest RPGs of all time, Undertale, which is like a perfect game for a service like this. You know, it's a game that everyone talks about once they've played it, but when you look at the art style and just what kind of game it is, it probably shifts to the bottom of your list of games you want to buy. So now that it's on a service like PS Now, it's definitely worth checking out. You can do all sorts of weird stuff in Undertale, like you can do a pacifist run where you talk every enemy out of fighting you. It's got an absolutely bizarre story. It's got that awesome song Megalovania, I think is what it's called, and it was like huge on TikTok for a minute. So if you've never played Undertale, you're gonna jump in and you're gonna be like, whoa, there's so many memes in this game that I've seen and laughed at but didn't know what they were from. It's crazy how many memes came out of Undertale. So yeah, I like PS Now, I like where it's going. Obviously it would be better if in the future they made the streaming better, or, you know, added backwards compatibility for the PS3 to the PS5 and let you download the games on PS Now. That would be really cool. And then of course, let you play the PS5 games that are on the service and have PS5 games. That would also be sweet. And then the last story we have to talk about today is a crazy one from the guys at Digital Foundry, who are all really cool. This is one of my favorite channels ever. Like, every time a game comes out, I love when they compare the PS5 versions of games to the Series X version to the PC version. I love when they dig into Switch titles, but this is the craziest thing I think they've ever done, or pretty close to the craziest thing they've ever done. So what they did is they did a teardown of the Xbox Series S, and they realized they could take the SSD off that console's motherboard. Now, when you look at this SSD, it's bizarre because it's absolutely tiny. Like, it looks like it's the size of a quarter, but when you look at the connector point, it has that notch that you need for NVMe. So of course, the first thing they did was get their PS5 out that had the new beta installed, and they tried to put this SSD in the PS5. And you know what? It actually seemed like it was working for a second. They got the menu when they booted up the PS5 that says, hey, you put an M.2 drive in the PS5, you gotta format it. And they tried formatting it, and when it got to 13%, the screen glitched out and their PS5 restarted. But they didn't stop there. They plugged the drive into the PC to see if it was corrupt or anything like that, and what they found is it had all of the Xbox file systems on it, and I would guarantee that there's some sort of protection from formatting that so you don't do what they did and brick your Xbox. Now, there's really no reason why you should ever consider doing something like this, because the Xbox Series S is $300, and if you just want it for that mini SSD, it's only a 500 gigabyte drive, and now we know it doesn't work. But still, it's cool that they attempted this, because I don't think you could take the drive out of a PS5 and put it in an Xbox either, and I definitely wouldn't do that if I were you. But you know, I guess you can now if you want to. You can take your Xbox apart and brick it, and then take your PS5 apart and potentially brick that, and then you'll be out 2 consoles. So yeah, whenever this update comes out of beta, don't take apart your Series S to take the drive out of there. Just buy one of the drives we have linked in the description that come with a heat sink, unlike the one I used for the video where we put it in my PS5, which again, I'm gonna tell you guys, I took it out. It does not live in my PS5. It will not melt my motherboard. Anyway, guys, that's all the PlayStation news I have for you today. Make sure you let me know what you think of all of it down in the comments below. And remember, if you want to stay PS ready, subscribe and set your notifications to all. As always, guys, my name is Jimmy Champagne, and I'll see you in the next one. Thanks for watching.